welcome to another edition of Serving It Up. I'm Jim Hayes, along with Lance Lynn and the great Matt Holliday. Cal Gibson is again going to be a major league pitcher, and he's doing prep work for that, so he's not with us today. But, gentlemen, a lot of things to talk about. I know Matt Holliday has some things on his mind. But first, Lance Lynn just announced his retirement. And he did it on his wife's podcast because people actually listen to that podcast and view it. So he wanted everyone to know. My question is, why now? Why, when you look around Major League Baseball and it seems like there are some drastic needs for starting pitching, why make the announcement now?
I think the season had already started, right? So the way I see it is, the opportunities were still there. I know what the opportunities are. I just didn't like them. And then, I'm in this point right now where it's affecting my day to day of being able to like be with the kids, do the things that I want to do and stuff like that. So the way I saw it is, all right, I didn't get what I was looking for. None of the teams that are calling right now are not where I want to be. So let's go enjoy your life. Pretty much is the way it came about.
So is it retirement with an asterisk? Because I know you were looking to start. I know you were looking for a certain amount of money. You can mention how much. None of those requirements were met. What if someone suddenly says, here's the bag, here's the opportunity to start?
I don't think they're going to get there. So, the way I see it is, if you don't have $8 to $10 million, then that was kind of the going rate. If you go look at the market and everything like that, that was I had teams literally tell me, "Hey, yeah, that's fair. That's the market. We get it." And then they come back and offer less, and I was like, "Bro, you know the market. You know where I stand." And they were like, "Hey, we don't think you're going to wait it out, or we don't think you're not going to play." And I was like, "Well, I don't think you know anything about me because I'll be damned if I give a shit what you think."
What do you think
So
of that, Holiday? What do you think? Don't you think there's teams that would give him what he's looking for?
First of all, a couple things. It's nice to be able to see Lance. You not so much, but this makes this podcast easier. Secondly,
Two, you could probably use some headphones or get closer to the phone because we I got a new link for us, and the folks at Punchline help with that. We got a better link. You couldn't figure it out. Now you got massive echo because I have headphones and you don't. So let's get a little closer to the mic or something. But go ahead, make your point.
I actually can't hear you very well, so I don't know whose fault it is. But my point is you're not allowed to say "get the bag" ever again. That doesn't sound good. You should not use any of the current, lingo, slang. Okay, so that got to get that out of the way.
yeah,
And
you'll
then,
never be hip. Don't try it.
That's true. That's fair.
no, I think it's funny that people thought that Lance was gonna. Oh, you won't not play. You won't wait around. So I do think that there are some teams that are going to go. I've seen some injuries come across the bottom of the screen already today that makes me think that somebody might call Lance and give him the bag, if you will, Jim.
Nice work. Nice work.
Yeah, see how I used it there?
Yeah. That's Sigma, very Sigma of you.
No, Jim, no. It's just no. It's just no. But yeah, it's great that he announced it on his wife's podcast. I think it definitely sets the tone for where this one's at, and that's exciting. But it looks like he's struggling, working on his short game. It looks like he's got a tough setup there. So I think he'll manage if that is all he's going to ever pitch.
Do you think, Lance, because I know you can still pitch, I know you dropped some LBs to be ready because the knee was an issue, you wanted to take the stress off. Do you think there might come a point where you're like, I should have taken a little less because I know I could still pitch? Is there any thought in your head that maybe I might regret doing this now?
No, I think that's what the conclusion I came to. There is a number that. Well, here's the truth. We all play and we all know our value, right? It's everything's out there and all that. And then this game, if you take less than your value, you're screwing the next guy, right? That's what we were taught, and that's the the part of the the association and all that. So I took a lot of that in consideration, right? I've done everything that I set out to do. I wanted to play. You always have these goals, right? And I remember Matt when I was younger, we would talk about them. It's like, hey, I got to get to arbitration. I got to get to free agency. I got to get to 10 years, right? And I've done all that. And at this point now, it's like I want to play somewhere where I want to be, and I want to make the money that I deserve to make, or that I've put in the time to make, and what the market is. Market changes every year. And I think, if you put a number on the market that should have been this year for me, and most front offices agreed with me until they talked to their owners, and their owners all came back with the same $4 million offer. It was kind of crazy how they all had the same offer after telling me that they knew what my market was and they agreed with it. The market was 8, 1 for 8. And I was like, cool, give me market value and I'll be there. Never happened. And then everybody came back with, hey, what's 1 for 4 look like? I was like, man, y'all talking? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, y'all call on the same day and then you don't call until the next week with the same offer. It was impressive. So finally, I just like, I'm good. See y'all later.
Is there collusion, Matt Holliday? Is there collusion?
No, so you were representing yourself this time around, right? So you weren't using an agent, is that right?
I have an agent, but it
Oh,
was
okay.
one of those things where I knew everything that everybody was saying, and every GM, every president, everybody, they were rolling out the same playbook. The owner said we don't have any money, but here's what we can do, and it was all the same package, and it was amazing. You hear from a guy, they're all called like in the same 24, 48 hours, and then you wouldn't hear from him again for 5 to 7 days, and then it was the same thing over again. And then after I retired, I talked to Gibby a little bit about it, and it's amazing. Some of the same exact days that he got phone calls were the same ones I got phone calls with the same offers.
Matt, you gotta work on getting this guy a red jacket for the Cardinal Hall of Fame. Can you do that? You now as a red jacket wearer, don't you have some juice?
No, I don't. I don't know how that works. I mean, there's definitely people that you would probably want to talk to before me about. I mean, I think he's going to get one. I'm just saying, I'm not your guy. No one has asked me what I think about who should be in just yet.
You don't get to nominate. You guys don't get to nominate the next wave.
If they do, I'm not included yet. No one has asked me my opinion just yet.
God.
It's probably coming up, probably soon.
You
You
got to
know
be
what?
in. You got to be in for so many years before you get on the nomination part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
You're telling me Martin Kilcoyne can nominate someone, but you can't?
Can Martin Kilcoyne? That's the first I've heard of that.
I don't know. I like throwing his name out there because he looks older than I do. One of the few media members. You know what, Lance? When I hear you talk, though, Lance, you should be in the players. You should run the players union. Wouldn't that be? And you don't have to be like. Let's face it, coaching today. I think, and I know that Matt had accepted it, and then got away from it because of his kids. But I mean, if you have, I don't want to say a bag of money. If you are financially secure because you made some money, that's not so lucrative. But to run the players union, you can make your own schedule. You can jump in when you want, maybe go to some events and get a nice catered lunch or something, and then create havoc. That seems like something you could do.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it that way, and then you think about having to deal with 40 players on each team, just like me. That sounds like a pain in the ass. So no, it doesn't sound good at all. If you say it that way, you got to figure out how to keep all these guys together, and deal with all. Hey, mommy's upstairs. What are you doing? She's in her bedroom. Go check her.
That's why I love doing this kind of
Love you.
podcast. We got an echo, we got a kid.
Do
Love
you
you,
want me to go
kiddo.
get headphones? I'm happy to go get headphones. I didn't realize it'd be such an echo.
Listen, ask Lance. Lance
Lance
is
can
going to
carry
run
the
the play.
show.
I think it's
Run.
everything sounds great. That was rumor, by the way. She's 4, so she doesn't understand the fact that people are on the phone yet. We're working
Hey,
on it. We're
no,
working
we
on
don't care. I like it.
it.
This is slice of life. We get it's all raw. So let me
Yeah,
ask you this, Matt
but so
Holliday.
no, dealing with grown men like myself, and that's the same with coaching. If you think about it,
Absolutely. So Matt, you let me ask you this about when you retired. You're still in good shape. I know you said you have some minor physical things that would preclude you from dominating the pickleball scene on a professional level. But when you retired, didn't you feel like, and I know you had kids that were about to do wonderful things in baseball, but didn't you feel like you could still play? If I looked at your Rockies numbers, limited small sample size, you were still hitting. Do you ever look back and say, I could have kept playing?
Yeah, I just think that the later you get in your career, like Lance said, you start weighing things a little different. Like I could have kept playing. I had some teams that called, and I had some opportunities that if it was all about just keeping playing because I could have kept playing. But you always have to weigh it against where you are in your life. I mean, at that point, I'd secured the bag, if you will, and you don't have to play. You don't need the job anymore. I love baseball. I love to play, but then at the expense of what? And at that point, my kids were getting to ages where there was certain things I just didn't want to miss. And so if it's not a team like Lance talked about, if it wasn't a team that I truly cared about, and at a price where it makes it worth all the things that you're going to miss, then it's time to go home. It's time to go and do the other things that are fulfilling in life that you love to do. Sure, there's times when you lay in bed at night and you go, man, I think I could still do it. I could still be out there, and you watch a game and you go, I think I could do whatever that person's doing, or I think that's in our nature, having competed so long that when it comes to a stop, you still think you could be out there, playing at your best and still doing the things that you love to do. But again, as you get older, you start weighing against what's going on in your life and the commitment that it takes and the time away and all the things that come with that. And you have to make an adult decision.
It seems like what you're saying is you love your wife and family. Lance loves his wife and his family, and Kyle Gibson does not. It seems like you're taking a shot at Kyle.
Hey, and you say that Kyle Gibson is an amazing father and husband. Let's get
I know
that.
he is.
Let's nip that real quick before Jim starts something he can't come back from. Uh,
I
Okay,
know
Kevin.
that.
hey, but
It's
when you want to
it's
talk
a
about the
joke.
bag,
It
when
was
you
a joke.
I know, we know, but when you talk about the bag, Kyle's made good money, but Kyle hasn't got to that number yet. Matt, that number, that $100 million number, if you've gotten there, it's like, let's go enjoy our life. Kyle hadn't gotten there yet. He's working on it. He's creeping though.
He's looking for the bag, Jim.
He's trying to get the full bag. He's got like three-quarters of the bag. He's trying to get the full one.
And I'm just trying to scrounge up a mortgage payment for next month. So just
Yeah,
know that
you're
we
riding
live in
coattails. Gibby's trying to get the rest of the bag.
look, we live in vastly different worlds. But
I
I
mean, you're at a
tell you,
five-star hotel right now. I could see you at the five-star Fairmont Hotel in Pittsburgh right now. I know those curtains.
the curtains. What the curtains? So I want to ask you this because I am fascinated by this. Like you were going to be the bench coach, and then you realize I'm going to miss my kid. He's going to be in the major leagues. I get it, but isn't it true that? And I'm not going to say you get the bag. Let's say you have vast financial resources where you could go wherever you want to go, do whatever you want to do with your family. How hard is it now to accept a role as a coach in Major League Baseball when those guys literally get to the ballpark 8 a.m.? Like there's more required of a coach than I've ever seen before. They work 24/7 during the season, and I'm sure they don't make a ton of money. So my question is, for a guy who's gotten financially where he wants to be, is there any interest in doing that?
I mean, I think that, look, you have this period where you work and you play and then when you're done playing, you kind of go through this period of what am I supposed to be doing? Because I think that we're all designed to work. I think men are designed to work. It's in our DNA. Like God created us to work. And so I think there's part of us that goes, okay, like Lance is playing, he likes golf and I like pickleball and we all have our own hobbies. But at some point you go, like, how much can we actually, like, at what point do I feel like I need to like have purpose that's outside of, sort of obviously being a husband and a father is great purpose and very, it's It's noble work. But I think at some point you go, do I have skills and gifts that God's blessed me with that I feel like I should still be using? And am I missing out on something that maybe I've been blessed with that I should be doing and impact that I'm not having? And so I think that's something that you have to grapple with, and you have to understand that am, am I doing enough? Am I doing what God's called me to do? And so I think that's something that I struggle with a little bit, trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. And so sometimes I know for me at least, I don't have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, but I do know a lot about baseball. And so the idea of being able to coach or be a bench coach or something like that and be part of an organization that helps that organization win that's bigger than you, I think that's appealing. But like you said, it's also incredibly time consuming. It takes a big commitment that, I think for me, I'm not ready to give that kind of commitment because I love the opportunity and the freedom to go and watch my kids do whatever they want to do.
And Lance, you're not doing that, right? You're not suddenly gonna a bullpen coach.
No, no, I'm good. I didn't even want to pitch in the bullpen this year. I'm not going to go down there and answer phones.
But
Uh,
don't you feel like though you have like you were a leader as a pitcher, you were also a teacher. Don't you feel? And I know you're gonna coach with the local community college, help that program. But do you agree with what Matt is saying that there's something that you need to share?
so yes, and I think that you got to find and the time and all that. You just got to figure out the way to do it right. Matt's in the boat right now where the age of his kids are that's the time where he can do it and he gets to do it with his family. So he gets best of both worlds. My kids are all still pretty young right now, so I'm gonna have a little bit more time at times to help in a different way. I think the way Matt, a way everybody needs to see it is we got to do something to promote the game, help like push the game along and help the next generation. So that's kind of built into us when we're coming up through the minor leagues. That's part of being a part of a group and all that. You want to help the next generation as much as you can. But also when you've been in it long enough and all that, you realize that, hey, you want some of your own free time. So it's finding the right place, right time to be able to put in the time that you have where it's not too much time consuming, but it also goes to the right people in the right spot. So, and that stuff usually just comes naturally. You don't need to force it or all that. So for me, I'm going to take a little bit of time and just see what's out there, see where it goes, go from there, and then see, you just see what's available and who wants it. But I don't know, when we were coming up, Matt, you remember when like all the guys in spring training and all the coaches were ex players?
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore. So, I don't understand, or I'm hoping that we kind of go back to it a little bit because the sabermetrics and all that are great. You can learn so much from that about who you are, but then you got to bring the actual baseball minds and people that played the game and all that can give you little tidbits that help you, but also be able to integrate that into your game too, where you have both sides of it. So I think that's the next wave, and I would love to be a part of that some way, some form to teach the generation that's young pitching right now. It's like, oh, you just need this vertical and this horizontal and blah blah blah, and you can get outs. No, you can't. Like you got to still be able to pitch a little bit. So figuring out how to, hey, I have all this now. How can I use it to get hitters out, and how can I set up hitters and all that? Because that's what the game's kind of missing now. And I'm sure Matt sees it. Where he's like, this guy just throws this every pitch, and it's like guys like Matt would go up there and be like, okay, I'm going to eliminate this pitch because you can't throw it for a strike, and then I'm going to sit on this pitch and I'm going to be 2-0, and then I know what's coming. But some of these hitters don't do that. But if the young Cardinals hitters right now are starting to do that a little bit. So that's good. Now the young pitchers are not. They're getting themselves in bad situations because it's, hey, throw this pitch because it's works 70% of the time. It works 70% of the time because the guy before it set it up some way, somehow. So you got to have a way to do it. Or it plays off another pitch to where they can't eliminate a pitch for you. So that's what I hope to do, some shape or form, if it's possible.
Matt, is there one? I want one player that you say gave you the most knowledge, helped you along the most. Give me one name, one guy.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that happens early in your career. So I think, early in my career, I was able to be around Todd Helton and Larry Walker. And even a guy like Mark Sweeney, who's on the Cardinal broadcast now, was a veteran player when I was a young player, and Todd Green. So those were older guys that gave me a lot of good insight. They were veteran guys. Obviously Larry and Todd were superstars, and so there was lots to learn from them. But guys like Mark and Todd Green, as kind of journeyman bench players, and uh, their understanding of the game was awesome, and their ability to help me as a young player understand what was going on a little bit deeper was very helpful in my career. It's like what Lance said. I think sometimes, with all the analytics and having a lot of people that are breaking down numbers and the data, sometimes having veteran guys on the bench, like I think we've kind of gone away from veterans on the bench, and having those guys, the value that they have, because a lot of times they say, well, we could just simply pay a young player to sit on the bench, and it's, you pay him the minimum as opposed to giving a veteran $2 or $3 million. But I think the value of guys like Nick Punto and Ryan Terrio and Gerald Lair and Skip Schumacher just on that 2011 championship team, like I think that we've lost track of some of the value, like Lance talked about, of having players in spring training, or having former guys come around that can help with a little bit deeper, that have had, that can talk to the game a little bit differently, as opposed to, like, okay, like Lance said, like, here's the numbers on your pitches, now go make these pitches. Or a hitter, like, hey, you need to hit it on the air on the pull side because that's where the slug is. Well, okay, but how do you get there? Like, how the pitcher knows that, so he's not going to throw me anything that I can hit in the air on the pull side just because, like, I want him to. Like, he's going to throw the ball away from me or down or up. Like, how do I get the pitches to pull in the air, and what pitches do I pull in the air? And so I think that sometimes we lose track of the process and how older players can help younger players understand what it looks like in your brain, and like the conviction that Lance throws his fastball with. Like, he doesn't go, oh, I'm supposed to throw a fastball here, and I'll just kind of guide it over there. No, he's trying to throw it by you with conviction. Like, there's a heart and a brain and a competitive spirit that goes into the performance, that it's not just a numbers situation. And I think that that's sometimes they want to quantify everything, and there's just certain things about baseball and sports in general that come from the heart and the brain that you can't quantify. And veteran leadership and having older guys that share wisdom and, like, little tips or little things that might set you like really make sense to you and click in your brain, that can really help elevate your game. And so I think that some of that it has gotten to where it's missing.
You
Yeah.
buy it? You with that, Lance?
Yeah, no matter what they do to try to put an algorithm on this and that, you cannot measure nuts and guts. You really can't. That's the truth of the matter, and that's something that I was taught at a young age, and in the major leagues too. It's like what you're able to do to go out there and compete and have the desire to win. You can't teach it, and no, there's not a person that can put a number on it either. And we've all seen those guys are like, man, he's not very good, but somehow he always comes up clutch, or you just have that. He just has that it factor, right? But in this day and age, that guy might not even get drafted, or might not even get a chance in the minor leagues. Like the Daniel Descalzos of the world, right? The Skips, the guys that Matt's already talked about. All those guys now are just getting, like, just devalued even when they're coming up through the minor leagues. And when you have great teams, you have guys on the bench that has their skit, right? And they keep the team going too, and they're always ready to play. They're always helping the next guy. And nowadays, if you have a young guy on the bench that thinks he should be playing, he's going to sit there and pout and not be a part of anything, because he's so used to being told how great he is his whole life too, and be like, oh, well, why am I not playing this and that? So but that's also being lost too. When I was coming up through the minor leagues, it was, hey, we got to figure out how to win. Even though it's the minor leagues, we're going to win, and we're going to try to have the best team we can. Now it's like, hey, just worry about your spin rates and your verticals and your horizontals and your exit velocities and your launch angle. That's all they care about instead of, hey, like you were 0 for 3, but your exit velocity was great. It's like, okay, I was still 0 for 3. Like we still
Yeah.
got to figure out how to get some hits. I don't care how hard you hit it and stuff like that. Or hey, my vertical and my horizontal and my spin rates were awesome today. You gave up 6.
Yeah.
I thought everything was horse shit because the scoreboard told me it was horse shit. So like, there's still we got to figure out. Hey, like the results matter, but you can have all that stuff. But how can we have good results? Because some of these guys are getting to the big leagues just because their spin rates and horizontals and verticals, and they don't know how to pitch. And everyone's like, oh, they have great stuff. Why they not? You have great stuff down the middle. Matt Holliday is going to hit it. You don't care how nasty it is. It's in my go zone.
I'm gonna say Carpenter's the guy had the biggest influence on you. Am I right, or is there
Yeah,
someone else?
yeah, I mean, you're looking at, I had a good group there. I mean, I had so many different mentalities pitching when I first came in. You had Chris Carpenter, Adam Wainwright, Kyle Lowe's, Jake Westbrook, all did it so very differently, but all commanded while doing it differently. So the number one thing that I took away from it is if you can't throw a strike with your heater and you can't get back in a count with your heater and you can't put them away with your heater, you're screwed. So then that was my thought process, right? How can I get ahead, back in the count, put them away with my heater, and then how can I go off of that? And that's what they all kind of did. And then they used their cutter, and then they used their two seam, and then next thing you know, you got 3 different pitches right there, and everyone's like, "Oh, those are just fastballs." Well, they are, but they go 3 different directions, and they differentiate speed, and you're setting them up, and then you slow them down with something else. And then next thing you know, like Lotion Wesley taught me, how do you exit on both sides of the plate? Matt, if you had to cover 3 pitches on both sides of the plate, it sucks.
Well,
So now,
that's basically like you pitched almost your whole career with fastballs, whether it was cutting, sinking, or riding, and he's had an incredible career with essentially a fastball, but they do 3 different things,
yep.
and I think that's it's like as a hitter, like he didn't have to do anything else. And so the hitter didn't tell him that he needed to do something else. And when the hitter tells you, hey, I'm gonna have to slow this guy down, I've got to flip him a slower breaking ball or a changeup or just change, like mess with him a little bit so that I can get back to the fastball. And those are all things that they're not necessarily like quantifiable. Like that's pitching and knowing what you're doing and watching hitters and Lance being able to say, okay, I just saw that swing and I know what he's, where his brain is, and I've got to do something different. If I don't have to do anything different, then I'm not going to do anything different. Like if the guy's not going to hit the ball the other way, why would he ever throw anything close to him? He's just going to live out there, cutters, just stay out over the plate. And so I think that's something as like we talk about, like your brain is so important, and it's just not all about all the pitch metrics or the hitting metrics.
Yep. And you got to tease them a little bit. They like the ball in. You got to tease them off in a little bit. They're like, "Oh, he's trying to come in here." No, I was just giving you a little tickle. I'm going
Yeah.
back out.
So the Cardinals have a hitting coach, a new one, Brett Brown, who's getting good reviews because the Cardinals have had 10 hits in every single game they play, even though the doubleheader was rough to watch. But the offense has been pretty good. And Dusty Blake is a guy who I think most of the pitchers respect and puts together a nice game plan for him. But Lance, you worked with Dusty. My question is, and I want to get to Matt on this too, because I've always wondered about it. You're a veteran pitcher. You've won a lot of games doing things your way. I know you don't mind getting input from another set of eyes or whatever. How much do you listen to a pitching coach when you're a veteran guy who's already got a resume?
So what I've kind of taken throughout my career, and I think it's really helped me with pitching coaches too, is there's always something that you can learn from them and that you can also teach them at the same time. So it's having that relationship, you being open to conversations, right? Conversations aren't going to hurt anybody, and we can tinker and do this. It's like, hey, here's what I've been really good at in my career. And then they know that too, because they when they're doing their research on you before you sign and stuff like that, they got to know, hey, why am I good? And then it's like, hey, what do you see usage locations that you would like to see a little different, that you think that I could have more success, right? So you give them that power to kind of help you elevate with what you have. And then it's like, okay, if there is a fourth pitch that needs to move into a usage a little bit more as the older you get, to throw another wrinkle into it. You have those conversations and this and that, and then you figure out when and where to use them and how. So that's the working relationship. And then Dusty's so great at knowing all of the everything about the hitter and those things of that. And then, for myself, I did my own research. I had my own ways of going about it and this and that. And then I would pick his brain on what he sees, and then we would throw a game plan together. And for me, it's like, hey, I want to see what you see, but I also know what I see, and then I figure out how to make them together and make them a game plan that we're both cool with before we go out.
And with hitters, Matt, I know guys have their own hitting guy that they've been with for many years. It could be a high school, college coach. It always helps them tweak things when things aren't going well. So, how do you balance giving respect and listening to your current hitting coach as a major league player, but understanding you kind of know what the game is?
Yeah, I think, as you get to a place in your career, as an established player that's had success, it becomes more about like a partnership, right? So with the hitting coach or pitching coach, it's more of a partnership than like you're the coach and I'm sort of the pupil and you're teaching me everything. It becomes more of like Lance said, like, okay, if you see something, say something, and then I'll tell you how I feel or why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then we can have a discussion about what's going on, what I feel, what I do like or don't like. And so I think, especially in the major leagues, that's traditionally how the relationship goes when it's healthy. Is like, hey, let's have an open dialogue, and there's going to be times where I'm in a slump, and I need you to give me something. Like I need you to watch video. I need you, even if you don't see much, I need you to give me something so that I have sort of this. Okay, that's why I'm not squaring it up. And so, even if you tell me to move my hands just 2 inches back, it might go, oh, that's why. Okay, now and then, all right, now that's a good feel. And so I think it's a very interesting, especially for hitting. Like as a hitting coach, you need to be somebody that's encouraging and giving him confidence, but also be willing to break it down and study and try to look for differences when they're going good and when they're going bad, so that you can give them something. And so it may not be the reason, but if you tell me with conviction that you think you know why I'm in a little bit of a funk, as a hitter, I'm going to go, okay, yeah, I can buy that. And so I think that's something as far as dealing with outside hitting coaches or outside voices. That's just part of the game. And I think that's something, as Lance said, as a hitting coach, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I need to learn something. I'm always up for learning. So if you have a hitting coach that's really good, why don't you tell me what he's teaching you so I can help with that. If that's something that's worked for you, tell me so I can help you, as opposed to like this secret society where you're sneaking off to other cages working with somebody else. Like that doesn't do any good. Like I'm here to make you better or help you. And if you've got something that works or you've got a guy that you trust, like let's talk. He's welcome to come in. Like I think welcoming these people in and making sure that you're on the same page, if it's something that you agree with, and then having a discussion that if it's not something you agree with, to be able to work through that, so that you're not, as a hitter, you're not hearing two different voices and you're not hearing contradictory opinions and trying to navigate that as a player. That's probably almost impossible to do. So my ego is not to the point where I think my way is the right way and your hitting coaches high school and he doesn't know squat. Like maybe he does know hitting. And I think that's something that sometimes as coaches or sometimes our ego gets in the way.
No, I
Well,
agree. I agree with that. I got something to add on to that too, though. It's the way you're talking is something that I've always said. It's like know the player. Each individual has different keys and different ways to do everything. So it's like, hey, know what they're working on, know what makes them good. And goes with pitching too, because you're as a big league coach, you help them by knowing what they're working on, what their terminologies are, and the things like that. And then by watching them, your best thing you can do is like when a guy goes in a slump, but it's pre-slump, right? when you see them like creating a bad habit or doing like forgetting what they were been working on, what their process is, and you're like, hey, you didn't do that today, something up. And then it's like, or hey, you were doing this today in your bullpen. I remember Derek Lilliquist, right? The numbers weren't always his friend, but he could literally watch you throw a ball and something like that, and he knew something was off, and he'd be like, hey, you're doing this. Is something bothering you? Like, no, I was creating a bad habit. And he would catch him, and then it would just like, okay, cool, and then that would keep you going because you got to ride those highs, you got to ride those hot streaks, right? And then when you have your slumps or your down little time, it means it needs to flatten out. It doesn't need to plummet. And those hitting coaches, those pitching coaches need to see, oh, here's what you here. Let's make sure that we don't do this. Let's go here, and then let's head back up because we know who you are, and it's not about me wanting you to do what I teach. It's about knowing you and what makes you good and how we keep it there.
Lilly was like old school. When you say the numbers weren't his friend, meaning he wasn't Mr. Technology, but he saw what he saw and he had knowledge. Is that what
He's
you're?
the game and the person. He knew what you were trying to do and how you did it, and it might not have been perfect or it's not something you would teach, but it was yours, and he made sure that hey, you made it work for you, and you didn't create a bad habit if you know by doing something else. And then when you were adding something, it was his number one thing, and it always stuck with me. Hey, we're adding, but you're a major leaguer for a reason. Don't lose that while you're adding. So make sure you keep your baseline because that's why you're here. Because if you lose that, then you might not have anything to be here anymore. So you stay here, and then you figure out how to slowly build on top of it. And that's what I was able to do with my pitch mix over the years. And it's like, hey, this was able to work, and then let's tinker here and here and make sure we don't lose what made us good.
Let me ask you guys a couple of questions that were just on my mind that I wanted to throw out, especially as we tape this edition of Serving It Up. The Cardinals are coming off really a disastrous doubleheader in Boston. And I've always, being around it, found it interesting that fans think players after a bad loss should sort of lay down and just give up. Like, they don't understand, in my opinion, that you guys have another game the next day, sometimes literally in like 8 hours, and you got to move on quickly, and you can't wear it. Just how did you, Lance? If you went out and you got shelled, like maybe like Miles did yesterday, how do you deal with it, and how do you bounce back?
I think for me, the number one thing is I would go back and watch every start, no matter good or bad, and then the good ones I would see what worked and then see what didn't, and then what I would do differently. And the bad ones, the same thing, right? It's like, hey, but you'll find in the bad ones, there's times when you didn't get away with something that you got away with in your good ones, and it's why. Did I not set it up properly? Was there non-conviction in the pitch? Was there this or that? So then when you start having those good ones, you start feeding off of them in the bad ones. Hey, I know how to nip that, and I'm getting on to my next start, and I know what I did wrong, and I know how to fix it, and then the game won't speed up on me. So for me, it's sitting there and wearing it by watching it. Right? People like I don't want to like watching my bad starts. If you like watching your good ones, you better learn to watch your bad ones because you can't just sit here and just pat yourself on the back all the time because it's gonna get up and bite you. So you got to be able to process both of them. Your bad games and your good ones, and be able to be better for both of them, and then go on from there. But it sucks to suck, right? And you know that. There's really no other way to say it. So it's like, hey, I don't want to suck again either. So it's like, what do I need to do to be better and get ready to do it? And you have to see it to understand it and fix it. And
That,
that was always my motto.
that's why I try to be mediocre, right in the middle.
No
I
one
don't know.
expects anything from you either,
You're
or Jim.
nailing it.
And then you're one of those guys where like, was that guy even here? I don't remember him being in the room. Hey, that's your thing.
That is my thing. Matt, I don't know if you ever took a O for 18. I'm sure you have. How did you deal with a slump when things weren't going well and the batting average is drooping? How did you handle it?
I think that, like, you talk about the team, it's like losing or whatever. And I think that you obviously have to have a short memory in baseball. But I think, like Lance talked about, okay, so check my process, right? Like, how's my process? Like, am I constantly just worried about the results? Am I too worried about my mechanics? Am I in my own head about what pitches, how they're pitching me? Like, what are my strengths? Like going back to like the grassroots of who you are and being able to evaluate your process and then say, okay, tomorrow's a new day. Like how do I take a fresh new view of the game and the process and get the joy back in the work, so that when I go into the game, I can just compete. And I think that we get bogged down with the mechanics, or we're thinking about where my hands are, or my leg kick, or I've got all these thoughts. Is this guy going to pound me in? Is he going to throw me sliders away? And so you start to, your brain's going a million miles an hour, and you get away from like the competition of it, of me versus the pitcher, or like the situation. We have a man on second with nobody out in a situation where for the team, I need to get the ball to the right side of the field, or I need to get the ball in the air to score a run, or, and the game's a lot more fun when you're playing for the team and you're not so worried about, oh man, I've won for my last 20 and I've struck out, and this guy's really good and he's tough on righties and this is going to be a tough one. Instead of like the game of how do I help the team win today? What's something that I can do so that at the end of the game, I've got something that sort of a feather in my cap that I actually contributed to the win or contributed to the team. And so that was always something that I went back to was how's my process? And am I playing? Am I competing? Am I actually getting in the box and just, very simple approach with a competitive thought, and then let the game play out and work on my mechanics in the cage and work on the mental, some of the things that I want to correct in the cage. And then once I get out into the game, to have the freedom to just go compete and not worry about those things. And that's easier said than done. But I think that that's where I typically would try to reset uh, my mental approach every day.
It's pretty good. So I have another thing that I want to bounce off you guys. You guys make a lot of sense, by the way. I didn't really anticipate that. Um, so when like the newfangled thing happens for a pitcher, it's the sweeper, which is kind of a pitch that's been around in some form or another for a while, or some other thing. But for a hitter, it's actual equipment. So everyone's talking about the torpedo bat because the Yankees are going crazy right now. Then you find out Donovan had a similar type design with his bat, and Pajes has it, and Herrera's been using it. But why is it always hitters have to get like new hardware, Lance, where you guys have to pretend that you're coming up with new pitches?
Yeah, so I find it like golf, right? You're only as good as the new driver, the new wedges you have. The reason why it doesn't check on the green is because your wedges there you need new ones. Like it's not going straight anymore. Need a new driver. Got to have it. Hey, whatever makes you feel good. Like I was a very very below average hitter for a pitcher too, of all things, right? But that being said, if I found that one that felt good, I might go 1 for 20 and I'm on a hot streak, right? And that was where I was at. So heck, I even started going lefty because it felt better. That is something that happens when you're in the box. Whatever feels good in your hands, feel good, play good. And if you look good, you feel good, play good too. So
Yeah, but
that's a different
all right,
story.
So,
but think.
like, look, we've been changing bat models forever. Like, some guys like a skinny barrel, some guys like a thick barrel, some guys like handle that's a little thicker, some guys like a skinny handle. Like the bat has always been
It's whatever
very.
makes you feel good in your hands, baby.
Yeah, I mean, so they took some of the weight off the end and put it towards the handle. Like, okay, but they made it like now they've been doing that forever, but now because they made it look like a torpedo and the Yankees were using it, it's a story. Like, I mean, we've been messing with our bats forever. Like, I would change models or call Old Hickory and say, hey, make my handle an eighth of an inch thinner. Like, so that's always been happening because of social media and because the Yankees hit a bunch of homers and because it is such a pronounced look, everybody wants to make a big deal out of it. It's not a big deal.
Did you ever monkey with some that's a little more out there than just sending the handle like the puck bottom or anything? Did you ever have like a big change with your bat style?
No, I pretty much used the same bat my whole career. but I did like the sometimes the handle a little bit thinner felt a little better. Sometimes a little bit lighter felt a little better. Sometimes a little heavier felt a little better. So like Lance said, sometimes you just pick it up and you go, oh, that feels pretty good. And then you go try it out in the cage and you go, yeah, I like that. I'm going to roll with that. And then you go for 4 and then you go back to your barrel and your bat that you've always used.
Send that one to
So
the minor leagues; they can have it.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Hitters have always. I mean, we're the most insecure people on the planet. So, I mean, it's one of these things that like it. It's only a big deal because it's the Yankees and it's 24-hour news cycle where everything's news.
I think it's telling though, because pitchers, maybe it makes them feel better mentally to say, yeah, I've come up with this new pitch, which is a variety of a pitch everyone knows about. And all Lance Lynn ever said was, yeah, I threw fastballs. Like, you could have named one of your fastballs something different. You didn't care.
No, I tried the sweeper one year and led the league in homers given up, and I kicked that to the curb as fast as I could the next year and went back to being me. So yeah, I mean you always tinker no matter what it is. I remember when they're like, hey, we need to start using bigger gloves because of tipping and all that. It's like there's cycles in the game that
Yeah.
somebody's like, hey, you got this on you or that or this could work, and then you next thing you know, it's like, all right, all these guys big glove where you can't see your hand. Everybody went to it. But I mean, that's a similar thing that they're talking about in the bats. It's like whatever makes you feel good and makes you feel confident that you can get the barrel in the zone and keep it in there and you got more whatever. And then pitching, it's like, hey, they don't have my signs anymore because it's just a thing in my ear. And then hey, they can't pick me at first or third from the coaches or second because my glove and my hand placement. It's all about confidence and feeling good. And it's just another thing. Now there's a little bit of science behind it for them, which is pitching too. Hey, this grip with this seam shift. It's maybe the torpedo bat's the seam shift for who knows.
I think it's fair. All right, last thing, then we're going to let you guys go. This is something out of pure jealousy on my part. But now that you're not playing, do you miss getting all these high-end companies sending you free stuff? Matt, I'm going to start with you. I know as a player, I mean, they would just load you up with free stuff. Do they still do it because your kids are playing, or do you miss it?
I didn't get. I mean, I don't know what free stuff you're talking about outside of
What?
shoes. I mean, I got free shoes from Nike, but like I didn't have companies sending me free stuff. Like, what are you referencing?
Well, there's like clothes. I mean, I remember seeing like a guy like Frankie would get stuff from all these big designer stuff. Like you wear like the wool hats. They should send you like a lifetime supply, or like
He was probably
pullovers, or
he was probably buying that and then
I
just said
bought
that
all
people
those
sent it.
things.
Some people do that. Hey, look what they sent me. You bought that. Like, show
Yeah,
me your credit card
they'll
receipt.
send
Like,
you as much as you want if you buy it. Like,
so you. Is that true, Lance? You didn't get a lot, and the guys that show that stuff off.
hey, so I will say, here's the difference nowadays. So
social
on the
media.
like, usually you're not just going to get sent boxes of stuff. They'll let you try some stuff here and there, and then they expect you to either endorse it. But nowadays, all these guys have social media, right?
Yeah.
So they're plugging that stuff on their Instagram, TikTok, whatever they have, and then they're wearing it. That's how they're making. That's
Yeah.
how they're getting the stuff. For
We didn't
us,
have that.
we didn't have that, and that's not our style either.
Look, I miss getting free Nikes, but now I get free Adidas because the boys. I told them like, look, it's time to. It comes back. Like you used to mooch off my account, and now I need new pickleball shoes.
Yeah,
And
if you can get us some sponsors, look, I got a couple areas that you can do on both sides here. We can throw that up there, and then they can maybe send me
Okay,
a shirt to wear. You just
listen,
never know. That's how
listen.
we're gonna do it.
That's all right. It's a work in progress. We had the echo today, but Lance would and Matt, would you agree we're a little better today, or no?
I mean, yeah, the fact that I can see it makes it more fun. Surely, I feel like when I'm talking, I can see your faces. It's easier. Yeah, I'm sorry about the headphones. I didn't realize it made that big of a difference, but we'll get this
It's
thing
fine.
dialed
We're,
in at some point.
we are, and eventually, even though you guys wildly well off financially, we could work out deals where you get stuff too. That's the plan. So stay with us, and that's going to do it for this edition of Serving It Up as Usual. I hope it wasn't awful. See you next time.